So here goes. I, 29F, come from what most people would describe as a normal family. Two parents, a younger sister, decent upbringing, not rich but not poor either. We never went without, but we weren't going on European vacations or anything. My parents were practical, hardworking, no-nonsense people. My dad is a mechanic, owns his own shop, been busting his ass for decades. My mom is a nurse, long hours, short temper, heart of gold buried under sarcasm and exhaustion. My sister, Julia, 26F, was always the golden child, blonde, bubbly, born with this glitter around her, you know? She was in cheerleading, student council, and did that annoying head tilt thing when she wanted something. She could talk her way out of anything. Teachers loved her. Boys fell all over themselves for her. My parents adored her. Don't get me wrong, I love my sister. I do. But the imbalance in how we were treated growing up, it was there, loud and clear. I was the quiet one, the reader, the why don't you go outside for once kid. I got straight A's, but it didn't earn me the fridge magnet fame that Julia got for winning Best Smile in the yearbook. When I got into a good college on a scholarship, they said, "That's great, honey, so proud of you." When Julia didn't get into her top pick and cried for 3 days, my dad almost called the admissions office personally. So, yeah, there's history. Fast forward to now. I'm married, happily. My husband, Mark, is kind and patient and actually sees me in ways my family never did. We got married 3 years ago. Small wedding. Backyard, string lights, homemade playlists, some barbecue trays from a local joint. Maybe 50 people. Cost us less than $8,000 total, and we paid for every cent ourselves. My parents chipped in like $500 as a gift, and I was grateful. No hard feelings. Julia got engaged last year to her boyfriend of 2 years, Tyler. He's fine. Smarmy in a salesman-y way, but whatever. Not my circus. Here's where the drama begins. A few weeks ago, my parents invited us over for dinner. Just a casual Sunday thing. I figured it'd be normal. Chicken casserole, awkward small talk, my dad falling asleep in his recliner by 8 p.m. Instead, I walk into what can only be described as a pitch meeting. Julia had binders, swatches, a PowerPoint slideshow on the TV. "I want a fairytale wedding," she said, clasping her hands like she was auditioning for a Disney princess reboot. Think castle venue, string quartet, flower walls, champagne tower. I blinked. "Okay, sounds nice." My mom smiled at her like she'd just solved world peace. My dad looked tired. That was my first red flag. Then Julia dropped the number. $70,000. That's what it'll cost, roughly. Give or take a few grand for the honeymoon suite upgrade. I choked on my water. "I'm sorry, what?" She looked at me like I'd just announced I was anti-wedding. "It's not that much, not for a once-in-a-lifetime event." I glanced at my dad. His jaw was tight. His fingers drummed on the armrest of his recliner. He didn't say anything at first. Then my mom chimed in, way too casually. "Well, your father and I are going to help her, of course." "Help how?" I asked, already feeling my pulse rise. "We've agreed to contribute $60,000, she said. "She and Tyler will cover the rest." Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. I laughed. I actually laughed because I thought it was a joke. When I realized it wasn't, I looked at my dad. "You're giving her $60,000 for a wedding?" He still hadn't looked me in the eye. My mom said, "Well, we would have helped you too, if you'd wanted a real wedding." That was when my dad snapped. He slammed his hand on the armrest and stood up. "You want a fairy tale wedding?" he growled at Julia. "Then pay for it your damn self." Everyone froze. Julia's mouth fell open. My mom looked like someone had slapped her. "Don't look at me like that," he said, his voice cracking. "I've already given enough. I worked overtime for years to put food on this table. You want to blow 60 grand on a day? A dress and cake and flowers that'll wilt in a week?" "Dad, no," he said, shaking his head. "No more. I'm not your damn piggy bank." Then he turned to me, and for the first time in years, I saw something flicker across his face. Regret. "I should have done better by you," he said softly. "I see that now." And then he walked out of the room. Julia burst into tears. My mom tried to comfort her, but she kept glancing toward the hallway like she was expecting him to come back. He didn't. I sat there, stunned, speechless. It was the first time in my life my dad had ever stood up for me, and somehow It only made everything more complicated. After that night, everything felt like it cracked down the middle, like our family had been this carefully balanced seesaw, and my dad just stepped off his end without warning. I didn't sleep well for days. I kept replaying the scene over and over in my head. Julia's shocked face, Mom's thin-lipped silence, Dad's voice trembling with, what was it? Rage? Guilt? Maybe both. I got a text from Julia the next morning, just one line. You really had to sit there and smirk while everything fell apart? I didn't respond. I didn't smirk. I was stunned. Maybe there was a flicker of vindication, sure. After years of being overlooked, it was hard not to feel something when my dad finally said aloud what I'd felt for most of my life, that I'd been pushed aside. But no, I didn't enjoy it. I didn't want things to blow up like that. A few days later, my mom called, not to check on me, not to talk about what happened, just to say she was worried about Dad and that this has been so hard on Julia. I asked her if it was hard on her first daughter, the one who paid for her own wedding and never asked for a dime. She went quiet, then said, "You're being dramatic." So, yeah, communication was going great. The real kicker came a week later. Mark and I had invited my parents over for dinner. Nothing fancy, just burgers on the grill. Dad came, Mom didn't, said she wasn't feeling well. But I could hear Julia's voice in the background when he called. We sat outside. Dad was nursing a beer, tapping the label with his thumb like he always did when something was eating at him. "I meant what I said," he muttered finally, after 10 minutes of small talk about the lawn and traffic and his aching knees. I looked up from the potato salad. "Which part?" He met my eyes. "All of it. I shouldn't have let your mother steamroll me. Should have seen how different it was, how different we treated you two. I thought I was being fair. I really did. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. You always took care of yourself," he went on. "You didn't complain. You just got on with it. I thought that meant you didn't need anything." That hurt more than I expected. "Everyone needs something, Dad." He looked like he'd swallowed broken glass. "I'm not giving her that money," he said. "I don't care how mad your mother gets. 60,000? That's more than we've got in savings. I'd have to dip into my retirement." I asked the obvious question. "What did Mom say when you told her?" "She cried," he said. "Then she screamed. Then she said I was destroying our family." I let out a bitter laugh. It was already cracked. We sat in silence after that, the kind that stretches between people who suddenly see each other in a new light. Then, another twist. 2 nights later, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, it's Tyler. Can we talk?" Julia's fiancé. I showed it to Mark, who immediately said, "That can't be good." But curiosity got the better of me. I said sure. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop near my office the next day. Tyler looked rough, like he hadn't slept. "Thanks for meeting me," he said, fidgeting with his cup. "What's going on?" He exhaled. "This wedding stuff. It's gotten out of hand. Julia's obsessed. She talks about it like it's going to fix everything. Like if the day is perfect, then the marriage will be too." I stayed quiet. "I love her," he said. "But I didn't sign up for this. I thought we were going to build a life, not throw a Gatsby party to impress people we don't even like." Then came the real shocker. I tried to talk to her, said maybe we could scale back, elope even. She lost it. Started crying, said I didn't value her, that I was siding with you and your dad. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. She said if I didn't go along with it, she'd call the whole thing off. I blinked. "Are you saying she gave you an ultimatum?" He nodded. "And there's something else." He hesitated. I leaned in. "What?" "She told me your dad owes her. That he promised he'd pay for her wedding when she was little. That he said he would make it bigger and better than yours." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. That was never said, not to my knowledge. And even if it had been, she was a child. Promises made to kids about weddings are just dreams, not binding contracts. But Tyler wasn't done. She also said something that, I don't know, it didn't sit right. "What?" She said, "I'm going to get what I deserve, one way or another." That phrase, the way he repeated it, something about it made my skin crawl. I barely slept that night. I kept hearing Tyler's voice echoing in my head. One way or another. That phrase stuck to my thoughts like gum on the bottom of a shoe. What the hell did she mean by that? Was it just a dramatic threat? Or was Julia planning something? I wanted to tell Mark everything, but part of me hesitated. Not because I wanted to protect Julia, I wasn't sure I could anymore, but because saying it out loud would make it real. And honestly, I wasn't ready for that. But Mark knows me. He could tell I was spiraling. "You're chewing your nail again," he said the next morning, handing me coffee and gently pulling my hand away from my mouth. I sighed. "It's Julia. She's not letting it go. She's putting pressure on Tyler, too." Mark raised an eyebrow. "What kind of pressure?" I hesitated. "She said something to him that really bothered me, like, 'I'll get what I deserve, one way or another.'" He frowned. "That sounds manipulative, or worse." "Exactly." There was a pause. "Do you think she'd lie? I mean, about something big? To get what she wants?" I didn't answer right away. But we both knew the answer. Yes. Yes, she would. When we were kids, Julia once told our mom I broke the neighbor's window with a baseball. I got grounded for a week. The truth? Julia did it, and then just stood there, wide-eyed and innocent, while I cried trying to explain myself. I only found out years later, when she admitted it casually at a party, already tipsy, like it was a cute childhood prank. "She always gets away with things," I whispered. "Not this time," Mark said. And the way he said it, steady, sure, made something settle in my chest. Finally, someone on my side. But "not this time" was wishful thinking, because things were about to get a whole lot worse. A few days later, I got a call from my mom. Her voice was stiff, formal, like she was rehearsing it. "I thought you should hear it from me," she began. "Julia and Tyler have postponed the wedding, indefinitely." I sat down hard. "What? Why?" "She's not well," she said. "The stress has taken a toll. She's seeing someone, a therapist." I was skeptical, not about her needing help, but about the sudden pivot. Julia wasn't the kind of person to cancel something unless she had to. I asked Mom if everything was okay between Julia and Tyler. Her answer: "That's none of your concern." So, of course, I texted Tyler. He didn't respond for 2 days. When he did, it was a single message. "She told your parents I cheated." I stared at my phone like it had slapped me. "What?" He followed up. "I didn't. I swear. I don't even know why she said it. I think she's unraveling." I didn't know what to say. I believed him. He didn't strike me as the cheating type, not from our talk, not from the way he looked so desperate, so lost at that cafe. So now Julia was accusing him of cheating, likely to punish him for refusing to fund the $70,000 fantasy. I was stunned, heartbroken, honestly. Not for him, not even for her, but for what our family was becoming. Later that week, I visited my dad again. He looked worn out, not in the usual aging parent way, but in the something is rotting in this family way. "She said Tyler cheated," he told me, arms crossed, voice flat. "Do you believe her?" He was quiet, then, "Not really." That said everything. He picked at the label on his beer again. "I don't know who she is anymore, or maybe this is who she always was, and I didn't want to see it." I hated seeing him like that, defeated. This was a man who had worked himself to the bone for decades, who fixed things, not just engines, but problems. Broken doors, busted pipes, flat tires. But this? Julia? He couldn't fix her. Then he dropped a bomb of his own. "She came by yesterday, said she might be pregnant." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What?" He nodded. But she wouldn't say it straight, just dropped it like bait. I stood there, blinking. "You think she's lying?" "I don't know anymore," he whispered. "And here's the thing. I've seen Julia play manipulative games before. I've seen her cry without tears, seen her twist stories until truth was unrecognizable. But a pregnancy scare? That was a new level. And if she wasn't lying, then this story, this mess of weddings and money and betrayal, was only the tip of the iceberg. I drove home from my dad's house with my hands clenched on the steering wheel, so tight my knuckles turned white. Julia might be pregnant, or she might be pretending to be pregnant, and none of us knew which reality we were dealing with. When I told Mark, he just sat there in stunned silence. "She said that to your dad?" he finally asked. "Yeah," I said, pacing the living room. Like she wanted it to get around, but didn't want to say it outright. Like it was strategic. Mark exhaled. "Jesus. I don't even know if Tyler knows," I muttered. "She could have made it up just to get Dad to back down." Mark didn't say anything right away then. If that's the game she's playing, she's not just spiraling, she's dangerous. I nodded, not wanting to say it out loud but knowing he was right. And yet, there was a tiny gnawing part of me that hoped maybe this wasn't all some manipulative ploy. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she was pregnant. Maybe this whole wedding meltdown had nothing to do with flowers and castles and money, and everything to do with her being terrified that her life, her perfect, polished, Instagrammable life, was slipping through her fingers. A few days later, I found out that Tyler had moved out. I only knew because I drove past Julia's condo on my way to an appointment and saw his stuff, boxes, a suitcase, sitting by the curb. Tyler was sitting on the steps, phone pressed to his ear, looking like he hadn't slept in days. I pulled over without thinking. "You okay?" I asked as I stepped out of the car. He looked up at me, blinking like I was a mirage. "She told my parents I hit her." I felt sick. "What? They don't believe her, but Jesus, what kind of person says that?" My stomach turned over. Julia was doubling down. She was torching everything. "She said I ruined her life," Tyler went on, his voice hollow. "She said if I left her, she'd make sure no one ever trusted me again, that everyone would think I was a monster." I sat down beside him on the steps, not caring that the concrete was hot and the sun was in my eyes. "I think she needs help," I said finally. He nodded, swallowing hard. "Yeah, but I'm not the one who can give it to her anymore." He left that night, not just the condo. He went to stay with his brother in another city, blocked Julia's number, and told my dad, not my mom, that he was officially calling off the engagement. No fanfare, no drama, just done. Julia didn't take it well. Within 24 hours, she'd posted a sobbing Instagram story with vague captions about betrayal, followed by a suspiciously professional-looking black and white portrait of herself with the caption, "This isn't the end, it's the beginning." Her followers ate it up, hundreds of comments. "You're so strong, he didn't deserve you. Can't wait to see you rise, queen." I wanted to throw my phone across the room. My mom, meanwhile, was in full denial mode. "She's just grieving," she told me over the phone. "She's always been emotional. She needs our support." I snapped. "She needs therapy, Mom, not $60,000 for a wedding that isn't even happening anymore." "She's still your sister, and I'm still your daughter," I shot back. "Remember me? The one who didn't make up abuse allegations or lie about a pregnancy or emotionally blackmail her fiancé." Dead silence. Then, "You've changed." "No," I said, shaking. "I just stopped pretending this family isn't completely screwed up." I hung up before she could respond. I knew she'd call back eventually, or Julia would. Or maybe they'd just both pretend I was dead to them until they needed something. It was around that time that Dad started visiting me and Mark more often. He wouldn't always say much. Sometimes he'd just sit on our porch, drinking coffee or beer, watching the neighborhood like he was waiting for the world to make sense again. But one night, he brought something with him, a dusty, beat-up manila envelope. "I found this in the attic," he said, handing it to me. "Figured you should have it." I opened it. Inside were old photos, me at my high school graduation, my college acceptance letter folded neatly, a few of my childhood drawings, a poem I wrote in 8th grade that I'd thought no one ever read. My throat tightened. "You kept all this?" "I did," he said, "even if I didn't always show it." And that broke me more than anything else. We sat there for a while, just breathing, not saying much. For once it was enough, but things with Julia were far from over. Because a week later, I got a certified letter in the mail from Julia's lawyer. I stared at the envelope like it was radioactive. A letter from Julia's lawyer? What the hell? Mark found me still holding it 10 minutes later, unopened, standing in the middle of the kitchen like I'd forgotten how to move. He gently took it from my hands, tore the seal, and slid the pages out. There were 3 sheets, thick, glossy paper, official letterhead, cold, clinical language, a cease and desist. From my own sister. I read it 3 times before I could fully process what it was saying. Julia was accusing me of defamation of character, citing verbal attacks, slanderous claims, and reputational harm that allegedly resulted in the collapse of her engagement and emotional trauma. I laughed, a short, stunned, slightly hysterical laugh. "She's lost it," I whispered. "She's seriously. This is real. This is actually happening." Mark read over it again, slower this time. "It's not a lawsuit, just a threat, meant to scare you into silence." She wants to make sure I don't talk about the cheating lie, the pregnancy lie, the Jesus, everything. My phone buzzed a moment later, a text from my mom. I told you to stop provoking her. She's fragile right now. Fragile? Julia was blowing up her life and setting ours on fire, and somehow I was the problem, I texted back. She sent me a legal threat. My mom's reply was almost instant. Just drop it. You don't need to escalate things. I nearly screamed. I didn't need to escalate things. Was I hallucinating this entire past month? Mark was already dialing a number. Our family friend Daniel, a lawyer. 5 minutes later, I was on the phone, reading the letter aloud. Daniel sighed. This is nonsense. She has no case. It's intimidation, that's all. Can she do anything? Number. Not unless you actually said something false about her publicly. And even then, it'd be a long shot. This is about power, not the law. I thanked him, hung up, and then I broke. I sat on the floor of the kitchen and cried. Loud, ugly, chest-shaking sobs that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with the sheer grief of losing the sister I thought I had. Because that's what it was, ultimately. Grief. She was still alive, still very much in my life, too much in it in some ways. But the idea of her, the girl I used to sneak cookies with after bedtime, the one who braided my hair before prom, who cried with me the night our dog died, she was gone. In her place was a person I didn't know anymore. A stranger in my sister's skin who lied and manipulated and now sicked lawyers on her own flesh and blood because she couldn't handle the consequences of her own actions. I should have seen it sooner. A few days later, Dad invited me and Mark over for dinner, just us. No Mom, no Julia. He made ribs, I brought wine. We didn't talk about the cease and desist until the plates were cleared and the air was heavy with the scent of barbecue and tension. She showed it to your mother, Dad said. Bragged about it. Said she finally put you in your place. I clenched my jaw. And what did Mom say? She didn't say anything, he replied. Just looked proud of her. That hurt more than I wanted it to. She's not going to stop, I said quietly. She's going to keep twisting things until I'm the villain in every story she tells. Dad nodded. She's already rewritten most of them. We sat in silence for a moment, then he added something I didn't expect. I changed the will, I blinked. What? She doesn't know yet. I haven't told your mother either, but I couldn't risk it anymore. The way Julia's acting, she'd burn everything down the second we're gone. What did you change? You're the executor now, not your mother, and I set aside a separate trust for any future grandchildren. If she really is pregnant, I won't punish the child for her mother's mess. I didn't know what to say. I should have stood up to them years ago, he muttered. To her, to your mom. I let them bulldoze you. Tears welled in my eyes. I hated how much I needed to hear that. You tried, I whispered. No, he said. I didn't. But I'm trying now. That night, I got a message from an unknown Instagram account. No name, no profile picture, just a gray circle and a DM. You think this is over? You think he won't come crawling back when he sees what he lost? I didn't even need to ask who it was. I blocked the account. 5 minutes later, another message. Different handle, same typing style. You ruined my life, but I'm still the one people love, not you. I didn't block that one. I just sat there and let it hang in the air, reading it over and over again. I realized something in that moment. Julia was spinning out, and I wasn't the one pulling her down. I was just the nearest scapegoat. And when someone is drowning in their own lies, they'll grab onto anyone to drag down with them, even if it's family. The morning it all came to a head was quiet, too quiet. No new texts from Julia, no Instagram rants, no cryptic messages from fake accounts, just silence. I should have known it was the calm before the storm. I was sipping my coffee, scrolling through news mindlessly, when I got a call from my mom. I stared at the screen, heart hammering. I hadn't spoken to her in over 2 weeks, not since she'd accused me of kicking Julia while she's down. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Her voice was tight, on edge. Where are you? Home. Why? She exhaled sharply, and for the first time in this whole mess, she sounded genuinely scared. Julia's gone. My stomach dropped. What do you mean gone? She left a note, said she couldn't take it anymore. She turned her phone off. Her car's gone. I stood up so fast I knocked over my chair. Did you call the police? Your father did. I was already grabbing my keys, heart pounding, panic crawling up my throat. My brain cycled through every possibility. Crash, overdose, some desperate ploy to make Tyler come back, or worse. Mark didn't ask questions when I told him. He just got in the car with me. We drove in silence until Dad called. They found her, at a motel 2 towns over, alone, alive. According to the officer on the scene, she'd checked in under her middle name, paid cash, left a note in the room saying she needed space, and that everything was ruined and they'll all be sorry when I'm gone. But she hadn't hurt herself. She hadn't even taken pills or alcohol, just drama and dread and a mess of scribbled blame. When they brought her home, my mom hovered like a protective lioness. I wasn't allowed to speak to her. Julia looked right through me like I didn't exist. I expected to feel anger, but I didn't. I just felt tired, so deeply, soulfully tired. Dad pulled me aside that evening. His face was pale and tight, like he hadn't slept in days. "She's not well," he said quietly, "but she's going to a facility, just for a couple weeks. It's voluntary, for now." I nodded. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't justice. This was tragedy, stretched across too many years, calcified into a shape that looked like family, but didn't feel like it anymore. The days that followed were quiet again. I didn't reach out. I didn't respond when Mom sent short, clipped updates. But then, 2 weeks later, I got a letter, handwritten, no return address. Julia's handwriting, instantly recognizable. I opened it slowly. Inside were 5 words, in sprawling cursive, underlined twice. "You were always the favorite." That was it. No apology, no explanation. Just that. A final dagger disguised as confession. Mark read it over my shoulder. "What the hell does that even mean?" I shrugged, tears pricking the backs of my eyes. "It means she still doesn't get it," I whispered. "She thinks this was about Dad, or the money, or me stealing something from her. But you didn't." I looked at him. "Number? But she did." I burned the letter that night. I didn't even wait. Just lit it in the fire pit out back and watched the words curl into smoke. We haven't spoken since. Dad still visits. He comes over on Sundays with groceries or a 6-pack or just to sit in silence on the porch. Sometimes he brings old photo albums and we laugh at how awful our hair looked in the 90s. It's healing in a way. Mom and I? We're not close. Not really. We exchange polite texts. She sends me emails with coupon codes or family updates like, "We're co-workers, not blood." And Julia? Last I heard, she moved, left the city. She's working some social media job again, carefully curating a new version of herself. She posted a picture a few weeks ago, her smiling on a beach, the caption, "Rock bottom became the foundation I rebuilt my life on." Thousands of likes. I didn't like it. I didn't comment. I just kept scrolling. I used to want closure. I used to want her to say sorry, to see what she did. But I've realized something. Closure isn't always a conversation. Sometimes it's just deciding to move on when you know they never will. My wedding is next fall. Small venue, local florist, no tiara, no horses, and paid for by me and Mark. Because real love doesn't need theatrics. And family doesn't mean setting yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, especially not when they bring gasoline.